Hey guys, and welcome back to another Warframe video. In this one I wanted to talk about how I feel about Wisp because it's been quite a while. I wanted to do a full, normal review like I normally do, but I usually never do Warframe reviews anyways, and I just wanted to talk about her and how I've been using her. Now, for all the Warframes that have come out recently, like the past 5 or 6, the only one that I really use is Wisp, and sometimes maybe Garuda, but mostly Wisp. Now, a lot of people are saying she's broken, overpowered. I get that, but there's some things about her that are good. They're very good, like that video where I showed where she's very good with stealth multipliers with Condition Overload Orpheus. But it's something that isn't overpowered about her. That's just overpowered with stealth. So the thing that's kind of weird about Wisp is her first ability is, in my opinion, her best ability. And it's not exactly broken, but it's kind of a slap in the face to several Warframes, particularly Vauban, which is kind of sad. So her shock mote, you actually emit a shock pulse to pulse electricity on nearby enemies with a 100% status chance every few seconds. Now, Tesla can do this to one enemy to the nearest of that Tesla, but only if you wait a few seconds to charge it up. This is instant, and it affects anyone that goes in here. So that's the first slap in the face. The second is the Vitality Reservoir, and none of these are bad, by the way. I'm just saying that they're kind of a slap in the face to other abilities of other Warframes. This Vitality emote kind of mixes two of them. It mixes Oberon's Renewal, because as you can see here, I have 71 health regeneration. My Oberon has 100, a little bit more. But that's with like very, very high strength, and this I'll show the builds that I'm using in a moment. And it's also a mix of Chroma, because Chroma's second ability, when applied with heat damage or whatever, it boosts his max health. So this is a combination of Chroma and Oberon. This is Vauban. Now with Haste, it's a mixture of Harrow and Volt. Volt, because we get a super speed boost, which is affected by strength, and as you can see, once it charges up, I can actually drift pretty easily, and it's actually very smooth, much smoother compared to running. And this also affects fire rate, of course, so all your weapons are going to be ridiculously fast, similar to Harrow's second ability. I think it's the second ability, yeah, the one with the shields. So it's kind of a mix of a bunch of different Warframes. It doesn't do them better than any of those Warframes. So it's not bad, it's just kind of a slap in the face of several Warframes, which is kind of unfortunate, but kind of good, because it makes Wisp pretty versatile, because you can do many different things. And like I said, not as good as the other Warframes themselves, but yeah. Now there's second ability, Will-O-Wisp. I don't know. I don't like it at all. I use it sometimes. I rarely use it. Just because I get that it distracts enemies and stuff, and then you can kind of teleport. It takes a long time for that to happen, though. For you to get to that teleport, I'm not sure why you wouldn't just bullet jump there. It's not really that much faster. So it distracts enemies, and there is a synergy with her third ability, which is Breach Surge. Now Breach Surge isn't bad. But it has sort of a limited range, and I've never really used it that much unless I get into a crowd of enemies. So, yeah, it just about reaches these enemies, so the range isn't that great. But if I damage them, you can see nearby enemies also get damaged. But you can also see the damage is very pitiful. Unless you basically... The only good thing I could say about it is... if you get damage over time procs, see, it keeps damaging them, and that damage is radiation. So this ability, Breach Surge, is actually probably very good against Infested, because you could proc gas or anything, and even if they're immune to the damage, it's still going to proc these little radiation orbs. This is kind of similar to Oberon's first ability, actually, now I think about it. I didn't even think about that comparison, so yeah, even more comparisons with other frames. But it's not bad, it's more of a utility, so I usually never use it. Now, if you use Will-O-Wisp and then you use that ability, that decoy also spawns it, so you can potentially increase the range, but it's not very significant. Now, another benefit of her third ability is if you're in line of sight of one of her reservoirs, you can teleport to it at any, I think at any range as long as it's visible with free, and then it'll actually increase the range of that particular one that you teleported to, so it's good for the shock one, for example. And then her fourth ability is okay. These enemies are already damaged, so I'm going to spawn some fresh ones. So I spawned some fresh enemies, and I've increased the level. Now, there's a couple things with this. Now, right now, I have all my moat buffs right now, so it's actually going to be the best possible, but I will show it after it ends. Now, her fourth ability is a beam of energy. As you can see, it drains quite a bit of energy per second. Like I said, I'll show the builds after. But as you can see, against the heavy gunners, it's actually okay. Mostly because they're weak against corrosive, and it does corrosive damage when you mix it with their other motes. Now it's not doing corrosive, and once this other one ends here, now it's only going to be doing radiation and heat, obviously, which is terrible against armor. But if you combine it with their motes, then it actually becomes okay. But mostly against heavy gunners, units like napalms and stuff will resist it a lot more. So let's just use just normal napalms. Let's do 5. Let's refresh it. I think most will spawn here. So we have all our buffs. Yep. And then we're going to press 4. Now you can't hold it down to double your damage, but it uses even more energy per second. In fact, now I have to go recharge my energy because it just used that much. Now there's other abilities that have other fourth abilities in the game that do this a lot better. Mesa, for example, does damage a lot better. As you can see, the damage is actually fairly good, but it takes a while for it to ramp up. Now these are level 160s, of course. On a lower level mission, you should be able to do this and sweep them away. But my question is, why wouldn't you just use your guns to do that? Because your guns will be able to do that a lot better. And because of her passive, I can clear these enemies out a lot quicker with a melee weapon. First time I actually made that mistake in a while. Melee weapon and stealth multipliers. Now obviously these enemies are paused, so they always have stealth modifiers, but this synergy does work. I showed in a different video before, but this helps me. Yeah, you can see that's the maximum potential damage you could be doing. So Wisp is good. She just kind of combines a lot of stuff with other frames. Like, poor fucking Vauban, man. Poor Vauban. Wisp is kind of like a all-in-one package, which a lot of people probably like. That's probably why they like her. Now, this build in particular is focused on strength, as you can see. Now, I have sprint boost too, because like I said, her haste mote actually increases your speed by 47%, which is actually really good. So if you increase your base sprint speed, that strength boost applies even more. So you just go even faster. Now this is with a Umbral build, but not all 3. We just have a Umbral Vitality, which is maxed, and a Umbral Intensify, which gives us slightly more strength than an regular Intensify, and then it boosts together, so we have as much health as we can, reasonably well. And then I recently got Augur Secrets. Normally this was the duration mod, the Augur Message. So this was more efficient. See, this drains 5.54 a second. And with this changed over, it's 6.69. And that's, again, doubled if you channel it. So you click it as you're using it. It uses double. I'm not sure if that's worth it, honestly, just because it uses... the double damage is good, but I think the damage is okay. It's just the fact that it doesn't deal damage quick enough is the problem. So you get procs a couple of seconds or something. It's just not enough. So I usually almost never use this ability. I'll use actually Breach Surge more, even though I said this is her worst ability. This will actually use more than her 4th ability. 2 is okay for distractions, but it's usually just her 1. Just her first ability is really all I ever use. But this build is good for that. And her second ability, I'm not sure if yeah, the duration. So her motes last longer. Her Wisp, Will-O-Wisp lasts a little bit longer. And the efficiency on her 4th ability is a little bit better as well. So it's a little bit more efficient is this build. Now this build is crowd control. Now it's mostly focused on her shock mote, just so it attacks enemies at 40 meters, which is great, but it also affects breach surge, so it's actually more useful, so it actually affects more enemies in a radius, and obviously if you use Will-O-Wisp with it, this is probably the best way to use it, just because you have that extra range. So essentially you can almost double your range to like 100 meters if you use this, let her go out for a little while, and then use this. Doesn't really affect this. That range is 106. That's the actual beam. You're not really going to come in contact with missions where you have that much of a gap between you and enemies, but it works too. So yeah, that's Wisp. Like I said, she's pretty good. It's just I don't think she deserves a nerf. People really want her nerfed. Mostly, I think it's mostly just because of her passive, because that invisibility lets her actually tank enemies and dish out a lot of damage. But yeah, I highly recommend her. There's obviously other reasons to like Wisp, but yeah, thanks for watching.